Welcome back to SorWil Solutions, where we talk about what's going on in our community. I'm Joe Wilson, the president of SorWil Technology Solutions, and today my special guest is David Todd, who's running for county commissioner in the 5th District. Welcome to the show, David.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me on.
You are running in the district that covers Tonganoxie, Linwood.
It's a very big district.
Yes.
It's essentially the western side of the county, and then it's a big L and goes down and takes in the southern end. So it's the 4 townships of Alexandria, Tonganoxie, Sherman, and Reno. And of course, that includes Tonganoxie and Linwood as well. But on mileage wise, it's a very large area.
This is the district that's been held down by Mike Steben for the last few years. He's going on to do other things. He's endorsed somebody else. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What prepares you? What has brought you to this point? What's your history? Let's find out. Let's dig into who David Todd really is.
Okay. Well, we probably don't have enough time. I'm a 4th generation Leavenworth County resident.
Okay.
I've been here forever. My family's been here. My great-grandfather settled in the Salt Creek Valley area before Kansas was even a state.
Wow.
So we've been here a long, long time. Like I said, I grew up in this county. I've lived in this county all my life. I've been very involved in county activities. It started off as a youngster. I was in 4-H, then I was a 4-H leader. I got involved with the extension board, fair board. I've been on the county fair board over 35 years.
Wow.
And the main reason is when I was growing up, that was a big deal. That was like the big highlight of the whole year was the county fair. So it was important to me, to a lot of my family and cousins and everything. And I like to give back. And so I've stayed involved with that. And we're celebrating our 100th year this way, by the way.
Wow.
So there'll be a lot coming out on that. But like I say, 4-H, extension work, I've been the chairman of the extension board. I've been the president of the fair board. I'm an auctioneer. A lot of people don't realize that till I tell them. And they'll say, that's where I know you from. I've seen you somewhere before. I really enjoy.
We're going to touch on that a little bit later.
I really enjoy doing benefits. I do quite a few benefit auctions throughout the year. I donate my time. It's just fun. I like to mingle with the people and those kind of things. I'd like to say I've been here forever. Just got remarried in November. Terry Lois, our register of deeds, and I got married. And
she's an incredible person.
She's a wonderful lady, and it's a perfect fit for our personalities and everything. And as far as running for commissioner, I can go all the way back to the late 80s, early 90s when I was a lot younger man. I actually was approached by somebody because of my work through 4-H and the fair board. If I'd be interested. And no, I wasn't interested, and over the years, there's been a few times it just never was right.
Okay.
It just didn't feel right. And, I don't know, this time around, I was kind of foo-fooing the idea again. And my wife asked me one day, she said, you would probably be pretty good at this. And we had a really nice conversation, but she didn't push or anything, but she got me to thinking about it. And then timing wise, some other people approached me and said, we're going to have 3 seats flipped this year and we need somebody good person, level-headed, common sense, and so I decided to throw my hat in the ring. Never been in this kind of politics before. It's totally different than running for the fair board or for the extension board. But we're going to give it a shot. And, what I think has helped prepare me for that is the fact that I have been so involved in the county all of my life. I mean, I know people from all the way up at the Atchison County line all the way down to Bonner Springs. I've got a huge network of friends and people that I've worked with over the years. Professionally, I'm retired federal civil service. I did 33 years of service as a civilian for the Department of the Army.
Okay.
When I retired, I was the chief of material maintenance. I'd been in management up there for about 14, 15 years. And so we had to do a lot of budget work. And we'll get into that a little later, but some of the things that we had to do is the military, well, not just the military, but the government in general, every so many years, they look at, can we cut people? can we do a reduction in force, or what can we do? They had they used to call it an A76 study, where they would look at an organization and try to determine if it was cheaper to contract it out or keep the workforce in-house. So my experience with all those things should transfer over somewhat to the county government.
Okay.
At least I think so. It's one of those deals. Once you get into office, I reserve my right to change my opinion, because once you get in there and get all the details that you're not privy to now, it could change my thoughts on a few things, but I'm pretty strong-willed on most.
It's interesting because a lot of people say that Leavenworth County is not open for business. And we can see by some of the decisions that have been made by recent boards that it doesn't seem like the county is open for business. We don't want nuclear. We're not interested in data centers. We don't want sand pits. Where does David Todd stand on Leavenworth County being open for business or not?
Well, I get it from the constituents' point of view. A lot of people, I don't want it in my backyard.
Mm-hmm.
They'll come for public comment and say, if you're not going to put it in your backyard, why would you put it in my backyard? I fully understand that. But there are a growing number of people in our county that are starting to realize that it's inevitable, especially the southern end of the county, with all the things that are going on in Wyandotte County with the Chiefs Stadium, the new Mattel theme park, all those things. The southern end of the county, Linwood area specifically, it's going to explode.
Sure.
It's just the way it works. Supply and demand, whatever you want to call it. Here's how I view development, whether it's industrial, manufacturing, or homes. They need to be handled on an individual basis, case by case, and they need to be treated fairly. I sit in the audience at a lot of county commissioner meetings, or I watch them at home on my phone, and it just appears to me that we don't play fair with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're willing to kind of turn our head and let this guy have a little bit more of a deal than this guy over here. There's times for that, don't get me wrong, but they want to say we want business, but as soon as something pops up, they start shooting it down. A lot of negativity. Let's get the information first. Let's study it. Let's look into it. Yes, on the cover, a nuclear plant would scare some people because they think a 3 Mile Island, or they think about Chernobyl or whatever. And I'm dating myself with those.
Yes, you are.
But I could get it. People would be concerned about safety and welfare and all those things. But technology changes by the minute in this country, and there are more and more safeguards in place. So rather than immediately throw up a wall and say, no, let's at least get the information. And I know there was a big stink in the commissioner meeting about that. They signed a letter, and Commissioner Culberson, who's a friend of mine, he spoke out and he said, I'm afraid to sign this because it'll give somebody just the slightest little inkling that we are definitely interested in, instead of just saying we want the information. And what happened was one of the representatives then wrote a letter that he said the county commission was all for it. And again, it all got blown out of proportion. But that's going to happen in the public eye. It doesn't matter how you handle it.
Yep.
You're going to have those perceptions from time to time. But I'm a big believer in, if it's going to happen, we need to do it right and fair and equitable for everybody. And the bottom line is, these people, whether it's a business or a development, they need to be good neighbors. They need to fit with our background, our diverse, whatever we have here in Leavenworth County. We're predominantly rural and ag in a lot of these places that they're looking at now. And you're really upsetting the apple cart. You've got 100-year farms there that are now being sold for thousands and thousands of dollars over market value. You can't stop them from selling their property, but you can work with whoever bought it so that they develop it to the right standards, to where they become good neighbors with the people that are already there.
I like that approach. Good neighbors, I think, is a great way to put it, in understanding what's going on in our community, which kind of leads me to the next question. When I ran for county commissioner 2 years ago, the big issue that I heard was property taxes. and that the county is made up mostly of non-tax-paying entities, the prisons, the fort.
Mhm.
Where do you stand on property taxes? I know that this last commissioner created this DOG, which is the popular in vogue thing to do now for government efficiency. I saw that it started. I don't even know where it went after that, if it went anywhere. Where do you stand on lowering property taxes, and what's your ideas on how we can accomplish that?
Well, my position is we need to lower them. I mean, it's outrageous what it costs here in Kansas for property tax. The problem is it's not as simple as just saying we're going to lower them.
Sure.
As you know,
Mhm.
there's so many things at play in this that uh, the county commissioners really can't control, but I'll come back to that.
Okay.
The state level, they need to fix the valuation system, the way properties are valued. If they fix that, then I think they can fix the overall property tax issue. There's legislation right now. They just talked about it last night, the legislative update to try to put a 3% cap on. And that would help, especially the elderly people on fixed incomes, that it can't go up any more than 3% over what it went up the year before. Problem with that is with inflation and the way things are going, is that going to be enough to make all the ends meet in 2 or 3 years? Yeah, I don't know. I don't have that answer to that. But on the local level, the Board of County Commissioners owes it to all of our taxpayers in this county and all our constituents that each year when our budget's put together, we have got to take a long, hard look at every single department and every single agency. I think our current commission has done a fairly good job of cutting and holding back on everything that they possibly can, but it doesn't hurt to have a fresh set of eyes and go in there and look at it again. Cutting cutting a budget, a lot of people immediately think, okay, you're going to talk about cutting jobs. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm elected, that is not something I want to do. I do not want anybody to lose their livelihood because they're relying on that salary to raise a family and live in our area and those kind of things. But what I'm going to encourage, and this is based on my experience with the federal government, we need to look for efficiencies. It doesn't matter what the process is. It could be something in the clerk's office. It could be treasurer's office. It could be something at the county shop. If there's a way that we can do the job simpler, quicker, easier, maybe we need to buy some different software. Maybe if we change the way we do things, it no longer takes 3 people. We can do it with 2. Those types of efficiencies will save dollars. And at the end of the day, hopefully you've saved enough to make a difference. And that's what we have to do. And I get it. One of the commissioners, I'm not going to name him, he's a good friend of mine. He's quitting this year because he's burned out. He said everybody gets their tax statement from the county. They make their payment to the county. If they want to have a hearing, it's with the county. But when you look at your statement, there's only like 24, 25 cents of every dollar actually goes to the county. The rest of it goes to the state, school boards, and these other things. And I know they're getting ready to vote on a big issue out here in Lansing. And boy, that's tough. That's a tough call. On one hand, you want to take care of the buildings and fix them up and take care of the kids. But on the other hand, property tax is so high, I don't know how people can afford it. So tough
And it's
go.
interesting. I think the reason that you have a bond issue in Lansing is and I could be wrong. I haven't studied the issue fully, but I think it's an issue we see around in a lot of school districts, is that in order to keep from raising taxes, you kick the can down the road, and the first thing that gets kicked down the road is deferred maintenance.
Mhm.
We're seeing it with the county courthouse, and
Right.
it's falling apart. We are burdened to keep or try to keep property taxes down, but citizens don't want less services. They want police officers, so it's a very difficult juggling act. And I'm learning this now as a city commissioner. You know, there's a lot of things you have to scrutinize on a regular basis, whether you like those things or not,
Mhm.
to make sure that they make sense and to make sure that we're not overburdening the taxpayer. because it's very easy to raise taxes and it's not always the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe the biggest parts of the county budget are the sheriff's office, the county attorney's office, and streets and roads.
Mm-hmm.
We're already not putting out very many streets and roads, although Commissioner Stephen has pointed out we've done more roads in the county recently than we have in the last 30 years. So I commend the commission that's there now for doing that. Where do you see the most likely place to save money?
Well,
And that's a tough question, and I get it. I know it is.
it is a very tough question. Not knowing the inner workings of the sheriff's department or the county attorney's office or the county shop, this is just my opinion as
Sure.
John Q. citizen on the outside looking in. I think it's great we're improving all these roads. We're replacing a lot of culverts. We're replacing a lot of bridges. And I get it. I really do. It's important. I don't know. I'm sure they have some type of a priority system in place over this road gets priority over this road or that road. But I would encourage them to really, really look at that hard. And this is an analogy that I have. And it doesn't mean I'm right.
Sure.
And like I said, if I'm elected, I'm reserved the right to change this opinion once you see it and have hands on it. But I equate it to the housewife that goes to the grocery store. She only needs 3 items, but she happened to get the paper that morning and there was a whole bunch of coupons in it. And so she clipped all these coupons and she bought 15 or 20 items she didn't really need because they were on sale, when all she really needed was the 2 or 3 items that she had on her list. And that's how I kind of think these things are. They're all important. They're all needed. I understand that. Our roads, our bridges, we've got to take care of them. We can't be closing roads because a bridge is failing, things of that nature. But I hope, and I assume, and I will find out, that there is a priority system in place. And we're not just doing this because, this is a great deal, or we've got matching money if we match it, but we still have to come up with the match part to put with it. And where's that going to come from? So difficult, very difficult. The county budget is very complex. And again, it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of study on my part once I can get to all the pieces of it.
Sure.
We're only given so much information in the public. And I understand that. We would be bored out of our skull if they gave us every bit of information. But we see the final product and we get to hear some of the hearings that go into play before they come up with the budget. So that's kind of where I'm at on that.
One of the commissioners, I believe Commissioner Culbertson, has proposed a 1% income tax to help remove property taxes completely. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think it's a good idea. We have a lot of people, having worked at Fort Leavenworth for 33 years, you would not believe the number of cars that come over the bridge every morning into Leavenworth County. There are people that hold high-paying jobs on post or at the federal prison that they're here, they work here, they use our roads, EMS, which that's another subject.
Yeah.
But they're here for the work day and they're going right back across the river. If we could put a sales tax in place, albeit small, where everybody paid, doesn't matter if they were from Platte City or they're from Atchison or they're from Leavenworth, Tonganoxie, if everybody paid that little percentage, it would add up and it would be a significant savings. However, from what I've heard, it didn't get much traction in the legislature. They did have a hearing on it. We were lumped in with Wyandotte County. And as a matter of fact, Representative Johnson said last night that when it came up for hearing that Wyandotte County had added some things to it, he didn't elaborate what they had added, but it kind of stalled it out. And there's just not enough time in the session to work it any further. So hopefully it'll come back next year is a viable solution. But I am not opposed to that as long as we don't get ridiculous and try to start making it for all the nice to have things. It needs to be used just for what it's intended for, and that is to give us some relief on property tax. And should the state fix property tax system, fix the valuations problems and all that, then let's let it go away. I would prefer that it have a set lifespan, and then we would look to renew it at the end of that period.
So I have two concerns with that, and I want to get your thoughts on this. First, there's this thought that a income tax of any sort on businesses would discourage businesses from coming to the county. And secondly, while I think in its birth it would eliminate property tax, at some point does property tax not come back, and now it's another tax on top of property tax? We know how government works. So my two concerns are there. What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with you completely. You don't want it to be something, and it would be a sales tax, not income tax. It'd be a sales tax. So it would be simply on items purchased here in the county, whether it's convenience store, grocery store, or whatever. Of course, we know states passed the exemption.
And I think originally it was proposed as an income tax on workers who work here, because those people are shopping here already getting charged an outrageous amount of sales tax. So it would be actually a 1% income tax if you worked from out of the community and worked in our community. That would go to property tax. It would cover everybody. So that eliminates the non-taxed entities from, they would still pay it because they worked here. People who used our roads and bridges that worked here, they would pay it. And so then that's how we would generate the revenue, which would eliminate the need for property tax.
I wasn't aware of that.
I think there's been a morph to try to get 0.5 cent sales tax out of it. I'm not sure how easy that is for the county to get sales tax money, but that's kind of was my original understanding or thoughts behind it.
Okay, well, I wasn't aware that it was an income tax. I thought it was a sales tax, but either way, it's still the same problem. After a few years, like you said, if we can eliminate or reduce our mill levy significantly, well, now we've got something's come up, and we're going to bring this back, and then you've got tax on top of tax. I definitely agree that we've got to stay away from that. That's why whatever this tax is, if it's imposed, whether it's an income tax or a sales tax, it should have a lifespan, and at the end of that lifespan, it would be relooked at again, and hopefully the elected officials at that time would make the smart move and say, okay, this served its purpose. We've gotten the mill levies down. We're able to survive. Let's eliminate it. Or if they had to, continue it at that point.
If we look at it as a sales tax, does that not make it the equivalent of the ad valorem tax that was taken from us or removed from us? I know the legislature hates this idea that that the county suggests it was taken, but it's no longer. We're still collecting it. It's still going to the state, but essentially that was a sales tax on items that are considered what it was a sin tax on beer, alcohol, cigarettes.
You're exactly right, and that the way you phrased it, in my opinion, is exactly right. The state decided not to give that money back. Initially, what they did was they just voted to say, okay, well, we're not going to give it back to the counties this year. Basically, they passed a resolution to ignore the law. And they did that for several years. And from what I understand now, they have went ahead and changed it to where it just all goes to the state and nothing comes back to the county. And it's a sore subject with our legislators.
It is very much so.
Very sore subject, because I think they realize it's not right. It's not right at all the way that has happened. And yes, you never know. I've learned in my lifetime, you never say never. And you would hope that if you pass this tax to alleviate our issues, that it wouldn't be the state reaching out down the road and grabbing it and saying, well, you don't really need this, or has to come through us and back to you, whatever, which I think all of it has to travel that way anyway.
Yeah.
I cringe at that thought, but
and it's significant. We're talking $3 million, I think was the last estimate of what's being collected in the ad valorem tax that now goes to the state. So it's nothing to sneeze at. When we look at some of the other things that the county commission is trying to do is is the pilot tax with Fort Leavenworth, and the fact that they would like the Fort Leavenworth to pay or help pay towards EMS, because EMS does provide services on Fort Leavenworth. What's your understanding of that, and where do you stand on that?
Well, I agree. They need to pay some kind of a fee for that. They're using our services for free, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Jamie Miller was at the commission meeting here not too long ago providing his report, and he had the numbers, how many times they've gone on Fort Leavenworth in the last couple of years. And Jeff Culberson's been leading the charge on this.
He has.
3 years he's been trying to work with the fort to get something accomplished. And having worked on up there all those years, I understand and I know how it works. They get you get a new chief of staff, you get a new garrison commander, you get a new general, you get these people rotate usually every couple of years. And so if the guy that's in there doesn't do anything with the request, doesn't kick, because it's going to have to get kicked up the higher chain of command. Well, then when the new guy comes in, you basically got to start all over. It's just the nature of the beast with dealing with the government. I'm a little disappointed that we haven't got any traction out of our federal senators and state and federal representatives to help push this issue, because they should be giving us a little something. And I'm not saying tax them out the yazoo, but they should.
I think the proposed number has been 1 million.
Yes, I think it is. And I don't have a problem with that. I mean, we're providing a service for free. And I just heard this the other day. I don't remember where I was at, but and this is hearsay at this point because I can't remember who the lady was that was reporting this, but the schools on the coast are full. And so this fall, the discussion was into declining enrollment in the Leavenworth School District. And they said, well, the enrollment is going to go up because now the parents of children who do not live on the post are going to have to use the public school system in Leavenworth because the post schools are full. They're at their limit. So if that's true, once again, here's another situation where they're coming to the Leavenworth school system, but Leavenworth school system has been declining, and that's a whole nother issue. But we definitely should get something for our EMS service.
Would you advocate cutting or stopping services until something comes to an agreement?
I can't do that to people. Those are human beings. There's many of our friends, neighbors, relatives that work up there. They are part of our community. Granted, they don't pay the taxes that the rest of us do, but they are part of our community and part of what makes Leavenworth and Leavenworth County what it is. You can't deny somebody service. If someone's having a heart attack and they need an ambulance, we need to send an ambulance up there. I would never vote to cut it, but I would definitely be all on board for some kind of a really stern, serious letters, and especially trying to get our federal legislators involved.
One of the things that, and it seems like Commissioner Culberson comes with, I spoke with him a lot when I ran for county commissioner and spent a lot of time understanding some of his ideas, and I think he has some really good ideas. One of the other proposed things was the Gateway Bridge project. How familiar are you with that?
Yeah, I like Jeff's idea. It would be south, basically Eisenhower Strait west.
The 152.
Yes. I like the idea. Unfortunately, it didn't gain any traction. It would give us another more efficient corridor into Missouri, and especially to the airport and all that. But on the other hand, I can see where the state is looking at, well, you already have the Centennial Bridge. You already have these roadways. All we need to do is put another bridge next to it. Whereas if we go over here, we're going to have to acquire land and do all this other stuff. But I really like Jeff's idea. I thought that would have been something really good for our county.
Do you support presenting a revenue neutral budget every year?
You know,
as a starting point?
If the world was perfect, yes, but unfortunately it's not. We the county or we as consumers that just have a household, you don't know what consumables are going to do that year. Like I heard one of the figures that was thrown around last year or the year before, asphalt jumped like 60%. Holy smokes. How can you, if you're on revenue neutral, there's no way you can plan for that. Like I said, if it was a perfect scenario, yeah, I'd be okay with that. But unfortunately, I don't see that working and coming with a good end to it. Let's put it that way.
One of the things that the legislature has proposed, and I think they're trying to work this out as to how it would work, is that if one of the local governments exceeded the cost of inflation and rose the mill levy, that it could be voted against by a petition by the people. It could be put to a vote. Do you feel like that takes power away from your local government, or does that give more power to the people?
Well, it does give power to the people, but I do think it ties your local government's hands to a certain degree. Um, I'll be honest, I don't know that the people would be able to gather in force enough to push a special vote on that. Uh, we have a lot of apathy now in our, not just in Leavenworth County, but in our world. People want to complain about whether it's the president or it's Congress or whatever, but when it comes to going to the polls and voting, they don't vote. But they sure want to complain about things. There's just a lot of apathy. People think, oh, that doesn't affect me. Well, it does. You just need to open your eyes. That could be a big enough issue that they would rally around it and force the vote. And I would be okay with that. If that happened and the people wanted to vote, let's vote. We're here to represent them.
What is something in the county budget that you would immediately review?
Good question. Very good question. Well, I have a lot of friends and people I know that work at the county shop, and let's face it, they're very visible.
Mm-hmm.
They're out on the county roads every day doing jobs, doing things, so they're very visible. And when you drive by a site and there's 4 or 5 pickup trucks sitting there idling with the flashers going, and there's 2 or 3 pieces of equipment and on and on and on, and there's all these people, I'm sure there's a reason. But your initial thought process is, man, do we need all them folks there to do that job? Is that really required? And so I don't want them to think I'm picking on them, but that's the most obvious because it's so visible. You can see it so easy. And I've been watching the commission meetings, and they just approved some new leases for dump trucks and some other things. And leasing is viable way to keep your maintenance costs down. But again, I wonder, okay, is this something we could kick down the road another year or two? Maybe instead of leasing them for 2 years, which I don't know what the terms are. I think they're all different, whether it's equipment or a dump truck. Instead of leasing it for 2 years, maybe we could lease it for 3 or something like that to try and find a little bit of saving. It's about efficiencies for me. If we can find a way to do things more efficiently, well, then the dollars are going to follow.
I think it's a great point. And I think understanding, and you talk about the cars idling, I think when I see patrol cars idling, I'm wondering how much are we spending in gas at this point? And when I was a law enforcement officer, I never left my car idle when I wasn't in it. So it's kind of a pet peeve. Have you taken a look at the comprehensive plan for the county?
I have.
And what are your thoughts there?
I have briefly looked over it. I think it's a very well put together document. And I do agree with a lot of the facts that are in there, but I haven't really read it cover to cover to have a really solid opinion on it.
Do you believe it's the county's, and I ask this question a lot, it's the county's job to facilitate the growth of the cities within the counties? Because there's the opinion that the county is trying to maintain a certain amount of power, They're trying to maintain ag land. But there's also the opinion that part of the responsibility of the county commission is to help grow the individual cities.
Well, we're all on the same team.
I will push back on that because I have talked to a lot of people who feel like the county is playing a different game than the rest of the cities.
Well, I can't speak for the people in office now, but I can tell you the way I look at it is we are all a team and we all have to pull together. And I get it. I saw this plenty in my federal career between just departments or this is my turf. You stay out of my area. I can handle my own stuff. I get that. But if we can help each other, it's to all our mutual benefit. And we need to put the pettiness aside, and we need to do that. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, you need to reach across the aisle and say, how can I help you with whatever your issue that the city, let's say the city of Leavenworth's having an issue with something and they think the county might be able to help them. I'll listen. Tell me, what do you need? Let's see what we can do. But I'm going to expect you down the road, if I've got a problem or a question and I come to you, hey, Joe, what do you think? Is there any way the city could maybe pitch in and we could make this into a common goal? It's all about teamwork. And I'm a team player. I always have been, always will be. I don't believe in just everybody has their turf. Look, we're here for the county in general. And whether it's Leavenworth, Tonganoxie, Linwood, Easton, wherever it is, we all got to be together. And maybe I'm being naive with that, but that's my thought. That's how I am, and that's how I'll be if I'm elected.
My sense is, both for my time running for both offices, is that people hold grudges and they have long memories. And so if they feel like they've been disrespected to some fashion, that carries over in how they deal not just with that person, but that whole city.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than all of us putting together and doing what's best for our city or our county, and I say all the time, every decision I make is what I feel is best for our city. And as a moderate, and I ran as an independent for city commission, I don't hold no allegiance to either party at this point because I feel my allegiance should be to the city. Are you able, because you're running as a Republican, I understand.
Yes.
Do you feel like that's important to have that allegiance to the community, or is there a certain allegiance to your party that you still have to maintain?
Well,
that's a loaded question.
It is a loaded question. And I will say this, first and foremost, I represent the people of the 5th District, or if I'm elected, I'll represent
I like
them.
the confidence.
The 5th District is primarily rural and ag folks, and they are people that their backgrounds and my backgrounds are together. And let's use the sand pit. Sure. That's a hot topic right now. Okay. The majority of those residents down there do not want that sand pit. No way, Jose, they do not want that sand pit. They have some very valid points on it. On the developer side, they bought the property. They want to do what they want to with their property. But I would have to say today, if I was forced to vote today with just the facts I have in front of me today, I would go with my residents and say, no, I can't allow this. Now, if they go through the planning commission and they fix all the little things that the people down there are really against, they fix the roads, they change the traffic patterns so that they're not affecting school buses. And there's environmental concerns with this too. There's a number of people have private wells down there. And if you go stirring this up, how's that going to affect their wells? I'd have to have all those questions answered and laid out before me. And then what are we going to get out of the deal? Is it going to make any money for the county and be worth our while that we're going to inconvenience these people and not be a good neighbor? Like we talked earlier, they got to be a good neighbor. I'm going to vote for my constituents. I would say 99% of the time. They tell me we don't want this. Of course, if I disagree with them, I'm going to do everything I can to convince them that, hey, you need to look at this from my point of view. What do you think about this and this and this? And if they still can't believe me, I'm inclined to back them.
So what about when you get to a topic, and I've run into this quite a bit, especially recently, when you know that what they want is not in the best interest of the county? How do you manage or maneuver that?
I have to sit down with them. It's going to mean more and more meetings where you go down and you sit down face to face like we're today. Put it on paper, show it to them. This is what's going to happen. This is the benefit that's going to be. Sometimes it's just they don't understand the whole package, and you have to figure out a way to make them understand. Let's say the sand pit was going to generate this huge amount of money that was going to reduce everybody's property taxes. I'd have to defend that and say, well, look, I understand you don't want this. But again, it's this balancing act that I was just saying. If they cover all the bases environmental, they cover all the bases safety wise and aesthetically, so it doesn't look terrible, I'm going to have to go to my constituents. It's up to me to convince them. And hopefully we don't get to that point where they just dig their heels in and say, absolutely not. Again, there's a majority rule type thing. If let's say 80% of the people are saying, okay, we understand what you're saying, Mr. Todd, we can see your point of view now. We don't like it, but we're okay with it if you know we're going to get X, Y, Z out of it. I know I'm really sticking my neck out here in the guillotine by saying this, but that's what we have to do. It's teamwork. We have to negotiate and work as a team to find the solution that's going to benefit the county.
The county has recently pulled its support for LCDC. LCDC has been the economic engine for the county. I don't know how familiar you are with this topic, but it's been a pretty big topic. Where do you stand on supporting LCDC and a lot of what it does?
Well, from what I understand, they pulled the funding for a couple reasons. Number one, lack of funds in general all across the county. They're trying to fund as many things as they can. And then I don't know this, it's a perception that there's some disagreement between the two bodies. The commissioners want a representative on their board or something to that effect. I'm not that.
They want a representative on the executive board.
Well, again, it's teamwork. Work this out. I believe we need to fund LCDC. We need to fund that group because that is a mechanism to help bring development to the county. And even though they're not funded, they're working off what they have. They're still doing their job. They're still out there trying to bring business and development to the county, even though the county is not fully supporting them. I believe in funding them myself.
The thing I really like, and I'm a little bit biased here because I did serve on the LCDC board. I was on the investor committee. I've been an LCD member with all the years with this business and my prior business, because I don't see anybody else in the county stepping up to do anything. And what I see with LCDC, and this is going to be a little pitch for them, for you to just kind of keep in the back of your mind, is you have private businesses that are partnering with a government entity to try to grow our community. And these are people that are movers and shakers in the community. They're not making any money by sitting on this board. In fact, they're probably losing money because they're not out chasing revenue, but they're putting in their time and effort to help grow our community. And sometimes I think that's overlooked.
Oh, I agree. I went to the annual meeting they had here recently, and I really enjoyed the statistics and the information they put out. And I know a few of the folks on the LCDC, and I believe we need that organization. The Board of County Commissioners can't go out and get businesses. We don't have time to do that. We've got jobs. We got things to do. And it's good to have an independent organization like that can help bring development into the county.
What's interesting, and I get a lot of pushback on this, the county hired an economic development director, paid him a lot more than they were paying to be a member of LCDC or contributing to LCDC. They paid that position for a year or some, and it went absolutely nowhere. Is kind of been the perception. So I struggle when you say the funding isn't there, because there was a position for this, and I believe I've heard that person say that was in that position Why do we need this position? Because LCDC is already doing this job. So I struggle when we say there is no money there for that, because there will be no money or opportunity to lower property taxes if we don't have somebody doing economic development, which we don't right now. So the other thing I want to ask you before we kind of switch gears here is, what is your opinion on transparency in local government, and how do you ensure that that is happening?
I firmly believe that we as elected, if I'm elected,
I like the confidence.
We need to talk to our constituents. Now, whether you agree with current Commissioner Mike Steben or not, he is always out there on Facebook putting out what's going on in the county. Now, sometimes it's got his spin on it. That's fine. He's entitled. He's the commissioner. But he's always putting information out. He's always willing to hold meetings and I think that's very important. We have to do that. I would encourage people to, whether it's a housing development or an industrial park or whatever, go to the planning commission meetings. They're open to the public as well. They're usually in the evening when people can attend. They're streamed on YouTube, just like the county commissioner meetings. Go up to the microphone under the public comment section and state what your concerns are, because that's your opportunity to be on the record. Not just for that night, but forever, because with technology like this podcast will be out there 50 years from now, they're going to look at it and say, that guy was an idiot, But that's what the public needs to do. And then as elected officials, we've got to do that. We've got to reach out to folks, tell them what's going on, at least what you can tell them. Nowadays, like I learned last night with Representative Johnson and this non-disclosure thing on a power plant, your hands are tied sometimes and you wish you could tell them something, but you can't, or you're breaking the law. But yeah, I'm all for it. Tell them everything we can, because that's also going to help me form my vote. If there's issues going on, I want to go talk to the people in my district and tell me what you think. Be honest about it. And so I can make a more informed decision on how I'm going to vote on it.
I like it. One more question, and this is going to be a little bit unfair. What is your thoughts on Core Civic?
Well, it's kind of mixed. I look at it from being here forever, being in the county a long time. Leavenworth used to be known as Prison City because of the federal prison, the big house, they called it. And if you stop and think about it, we have state prison down the road at Lansing. We have the county jail. We have the U.S. disciplinary barracks at Fort Leavenworth. We are known for incarcerating folks. I have no idea what kind of issues they had before. I understand there were some human rights issues and whatnot with that. I don't have a problem with them operating a facility if it's correct. They follow all the basic rules they're supposed to. I'm not going to get into policy that the federal government has with ICE and all that. It's just way over my pay grade to even try to fathom all those things. But I do think that Core Civic could be, again, it's one of those situations. If it's done correctly, it could be good for the community in providing the jobs and taxes and those types of things.
Okay, we're going to shift gears to go into our second segment, which is a little bit personal. Normally at this time, I talk about a nonprofit that we're supporting, but I want to take a minute to talk about how SorWil Technology Solutions is changing and is going to become Matcha IT. It's a better blend of IT. Watch that one. Catherine, our director of marketing, is going to hate that, but we are making a change, trying to get with the times, and there'll be more coming out. So we're looking more towards doing some new things with our new logo and our new marketing. And so just keep your eyes out for that. All right. As we get into this, we're going to do what we call rapid fire questions with David Todd. It's a special segment. And these are all questions about you.
Rock and roll.
We want to know, early riser or night owl?
Both.
Okay. Interesting. Favorite local restaurant in District 5?
There's not much in District 5 at this point. I used to really like Flashbacks in Tonganoxie that recently burned.
Yes.
And I like Kelly's in Baser. That's out of my district, but I like both of those places.
I've heard that Flashbacks is going to open up where Perky's Cafe
Yes,
was.
he is. I just talked to Charlie the other day, and they're cleaning it all up, getting ready to open down there.
All right. All right. One book that shaped your thinking.
I'll be honest, I haven't read a book in forever.
Okay. Okay, that's fair. Most underrated quality in leadership.
Quality in leadership. I'm going to tell you a little story here.
Okay, please.
I went through the Leavenworth Lansing leadership class.
I did too, just recently.
I went in 1996.
Okay.
Of course, I was a much younger man then. And I had just started I was like in my second or third year of management at Fort Leavenworth. And of course, I was the president of the fair board at the time. And I'd been on the extension board. We got into a really good discussion because there was a good mix of military and civilian folks in the class. We got into a really good discussion on if you could teach someone to be a leader or if it was a trait that you're born with. And my argument was you can teach someone how to lead certain circumstances and certain things, especially military. But I think people are born with a knack to get up in front of a crowd, take charge of a situation. They may not always be right, but they have this ability to get up and take charge and make decisions when they have to be made. And that's one thing I'm very proud of. In 2000, the fairgrounds got hit by a tornado. Every single building on the fairgrounds was damaged. Some of them completely destroyed. And I was the president of the board at the time. We had about 90 days till the fair was going to come up. And of course, first call is to the insurance people, and they walk us through everything they can do. Well, the next step is we have an emergency meeting. How are we going to handle this? And I wanted to hire a contractor, a general, that could sub out whatever they needed to. But I wanted that one company accountable so that we could try to have our fair in 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of pushback from different guys on the board because there were people on the board that were businessmen, had their own electric companies, plumbing companies. They wanted a piece of this deal. I said, you'll get a shot. I've been insured by this contractor. If we go with this, he's going to let you guys bid, whatever. Anyway, long story short, when the arguments got all done, we went my way. When the fair came around, every single building but one was repaired. There was one building that we just made the determination we would just put a tent up over the top of it to get through the fair, and we would finish it afterwards. But I was very proud that I pushed it. I mean, I'll be honest, I was borderline being a jerk about it. I pushed it really, really hard. I got it my way, and one of my biggest people that didn't want it came up to me after the fair and shook my hand and said, "You were right." And so, as far as the trait of a leader, I can't tell you.
Sounds like decisiveness.
Yes, decisiveness. Yes, yes.
Best piece of advice you've ever received?
Well, way back in my government career when I was starting to get into management, anytime you're up for promotion, you have to fill out paperwork and whatnot. And it was similar to a resume, but it wasn't really a resume. And I'd written this out kind of hastily, and I was getting ready to turn it in. And one of my neighbors was working in the office. He was a major at the time. And he said, "Let me look at that." I said, "All right, here you go." So he looks at it and he gives it back to me the next day, and it's just covered in red marks. It's just scribbled all over. And the best advice I ever got, he said, "You don't need to tell me how you're going to do this. You just need to tell me what you're going to do. You don't have to get into all the details. Just tell me what you're going to do, what your objective is, and what you're going to do. You don't need to tell me step by step by step by step. That's probably the best advice I've ever received.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Oh, wow. Okay. Um, First thing you do when you get up in the morning?
Stumble out in the kitchen and take my medicine. Well, I kiss my wife first.
All right. Fair enough. David, thanks for being on the show. It's been a pleasure. Is there anything you want to tell our listeners about how can they get more information? I know you got some of these pamphlets. Do you have a website or are you taking donations? How can we get more information?
I do not have a website.
I know a web somebody can build one for you if you're curious
but
or need one.
We do have a Facebook page.
Okay.
And on the card that you have there, there's a QR code. If you scan that, it goes to the Facebook page. And then my email is dtodd4lvbocc@gmail.com.
Okay.
And yes, if anyone wants to donate to my campaign, just if they'll send me an email, I'll be glad to get them the information they need. And I'm looking forward to the challenge of running this summer.
We are glad you took some time to be on the show. I've heard a lot about you from Terry Lois. Everything I find to be very true. You seem like a very honest individual. So I appreciate you taking the time to be on the show and look forward to see what great things you're going to do for our county.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's our show for this week. If you like the content, please like and subscribe so we can keep this going, and keep your eye out for the Matcha Minute. Thanks.